In the summer of 1996, the Blackwood Sleep Institute in rural Vermont was abruptly shut down and sealed by federal authorities. Official reports cited unforeseen funding issues and structural instability. For 30 years, the files of the Blackwood Institute were thought to be destroyed. But 3 months ago, a private collector obtained an anonymous hard drive at an estate auction. What we found on that drive was a collection of raw data from their final, most controversial project, Project Subject 0. The facility was designed as a closed-loop environment. No researchers entered or left the unit for 6 months, and the test subjects were kept in complete isolation. We are currently listening to a recovered, deeply corrupted audio file labeled Session 44. The voice you hear is Dr. Aris, the lead investigator. The subject is an unidentified male, referred to only as Subject 0, Entry 44. Subject 0 has been awake for 112 hours. We are testing the limits of sensory deprivation and prolonged wakefulness. The goal is to document the transition between deep sleep and what we hypothesize is an extended consciousness state. Subject, can you hear me report your current surroundings? The room. It's shrinking, Doctor. The walls are closer than they were an hour ago. The light from the monitor it's bleeding into the corners. It doesn't look like light anymore. It looks like liquid. Subject, that's a common side effect of extreme sleep deprivation. Your brain is struggling to process depth and light. The room dimensions have not changed. Please focus on the audio prompt. We need to document your internal state, not the architecture of the lab. There is no one in this room but me and the recording equipment. There is someone else here, Doctor. It's in the corner, behind you. It's been standing there since the third night. It doesn't breathe. It just watches. Why aren't you looking at it? Why are you acting like it's not there? There is no one in this room, Subject 0. There are no cameras in the corners. There is only the steel wall and the ventilation grate. Please, I need you to stay calm. Your heart rate is climbing into the danger zone. If this continues, I will be forced to terminate the session and administer a sedative. You keep saying that. You keep saying you're the only one here. But you're trembling, Doctor. I can hear your pen scratching against the paper, and it's shaking. You're afraid. You're afraid because you can feel it too, can't you? You can feel the cold air coming from the corner. You can feel the weight of something that shouldn't be here. Stop it. This is exactly why we are conducting this study, to analyze the projection of internal fears onto the physical environment. You are projecting your anxiety onto me. I am the observer. You are the subject. Remember that. You're so meticulous, Doctor. You write down everything. You document every heartbeat, every breath, every flicker of the eye. But you never write about yourself. You never write about the log you keep in your private desk, the one about the accident in the hallway, the one that happened to you 3 days ago. Stop it. How do you know about that? That file is encrypted. I am the only one who has access to that report. There is no way for you to know about the fire in the corridor. I know it because I was there, Doctor. I was the one who pulled the latch. You think you've been observing me for 112 hours. You've been sitting in that chair for a lifetime. Look at the monitor, Doctor. Look at the pulse graph. It's not mine. It's been flat for hours. It's yours. The audio ends there. The file simply cuts to a sequence of high-pitched static that lasts for 20 minutes before the drive loses power. When the Blackwood Institute was investigated by authorities after the shutdown, they found the labs empty. There were no bodies, no notes, and no records of any fire. But the investigators noted something strange. The chairs in the observation room were pulled back, as if someone had just stood up and walked away. And on the floor of the room where Subject Zero was kept, they found a single, handwritten logbook. The last entry in the logbook wasn't written by a doctor. It wasn't written by a researcher. It was written in a frantic, unreadable scrawl, and it simply said, "The observer is now the observed." If you're listening to this and you feel a sudden drop in the temperature of your room, or if you feel like something is standing just out of your peripheral vision, don't turn around. Just keep listening. Maybe you aren't as alone as you think. The audio recording was discovered inside a damaged police evidence box that had been scheduled for destruction. There was no case number, no officer's signature, just a label written in black marker. Interview Room 3. The timestamp showed the recording had been made in October 2009 inside a small sheriff's department in rural Montana. According to the few surviving documents, a highway patrol officer had picked up a hitchhiker wandering alone on an empty road just before sunrise. He wasn't injured. He wasn't intoxicated. He carried no identification and refused to give his name. He simply asked one question. "Has anyone gone into Interview Room 3 today?" The officer ignored the question. At the station, the man was placed inside Interview Room 3 while detectives tried to identify him. For the first several minutes, everything seemed normal. The detectives asked where he came from. He answered, "The wrong side of the building." They asked where he had been walking. He replied, "Away from the room." Every answer created more questions. Then one detective asked why he looked so frightened. The stranger slowly turned toward the large observation mirror covering one wall of the room. "There are supposed to be two people behind that glass." The detective glanced toward the mirror. "There are." The stranger quietly shook his head. "No, there are 3. The officers exchanged confused looks. Only 2 detectives were observing the interview. Security footage later confirmed that no one else entered the observation room. The interview continued. The stranger remained calm. He answered every question politely, but every few minutes he looked toward the mirror again, as if someone behind it had moved. Eventually, one detective became irritated. "What exactly do you think you're seeing?" The stranger hesitated before answering. "Not seeing. Remembering." Nobody understood what he meant. Nearly 20 minutes into the interview, the station experienced a brief power outage. The lights flickered for less than 2 seconds. Emergency power activated immediately. Nothing appeared unusual, except for the stranger. He was now staring directly at one detective. "You looked." The detective frowned. "Looked where?" "When the lights went out." "I didn't look anywhere." The stranger sighed. "You will." The interview was paused while technicians inspected the electrical system. No problems were found. When questioning resumed, the detectives decided to change tactics. They asked why he had specifically mentioned Interview Room 3 before arriving. The stranger looked around the room carefully before answering. "Because this room isn't always a room." Silence filled the building. The lead detective leaned forward. "What does that mean?" The stranger smiled for the first time. "It depends which side of the door you enter." Neither detective spoke. Then the stranger asked a question of his own. "Have either of you noticed that nobody stays in this room very long?" The detectives ignored him, but later records revealed something disturbing. Interview Room 3 had been renovated 4 different times in 11 years. No official explanation was ever documented. As the interview continued, the stranger began describing details about the station that he should never have known. He correctly identified which deputy would answer the next phone call. He described a coffee mug breaking in the evidence office nearly 30 seconds before it happened. He even recited the exact words of a radio transmission several moments before dispatch broadcasted. The detectives accused him of somehow hearing police communications. The stranger simply laughed. "I'm not hearing them. I'm remembering them." One detective finally lost his patience. "Who are you?" The stranger looked directly into the observation mirror. "I was sitting where you're sitting." The detective frowned. "What? Not today. Later." The room became completely silent. The stranger continued speaking. "You'll bring someone in. You'll ask the same questions. You'll stand exactly where you're standing now. And you'll realize there's someone behind the glass." The detective slowly turned toward the observation mirror. Nobody was there. When he looked back, the stranger was no longer looking at him. He was staring into the empty corner of the ceiling, listening. After several seconds, he whispered, "He's here early." The detectives immediately searched the building. Every hallway, every office, every storage room. No intruder was found. The interview resumed one final time. The lead detective sat down and placed the recorder on the table. "I want the truth." The stranger nodded. "So do I." "What happens in this room?" The stranger took a long breath. "This room remembers everyone who leaves." The detective frowned. "What does that mean?" "It keeps one version. And eventually, it sends them back." The detective laughed uneasily. "That's impossible." The stranger slowly raised his eyes. "So is meeting you." The recording remained silent for nearly 15 seconds. Then another voice was captured. It came from the observation room behind the glass. It sounded exactly like the detective, only much older. The voice spoke just 6 words. "Don't let him close the door." Immediately afterward, the recording ended. When investigators reviewed the security footage, they found something impossible. Throughout the entire interview, the observation room appeared empty, except during the 2-second blackout. On a single corrupted frame, a third silhouette was visible behind the glass, standing perfectly still, facing the detectives. The identity of the figure was never determined. Interview room 3 was permanently sealed 3 months later. Official records describe the renovation as routine maintenance. No explanation was ever given. Today, anyone visiting the sheriff's department will notice something unusual. The hallway skips from interview room 2 directly to interview room 4. According to the building's floor plan, room 3 no longer exists. Officially, it never did.